Hey everybody, this here is the Malcontent. We are live in Kent, Washington, outside the Mailing Regional Justice Center, where we are with the 442 group and some malcontents that have come down. The arraignment procedures have just started for Officer Jeff Nelson, and we are listening into that right now. And we're going to go ahead and flip the camera around and listen in.
You may proceed with arraignment at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have handed a copy of the documents to the defense. I'm passing forward a copy of the information, the case summary, as well as the certification in this matter. Counsel, do you have copies of those documents?
I have, yes, counsel, I have the information and the certification.
We are all proceeding. Is your true and correct name Jeffrey Nelson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nelson, you have been charged by way of information with 2 counts of crime. The first is the count of murder in the 2nd degree alleged to have occurred on or about May 31st, 2019. And the second crime is assault in the 1st degree alleged to have occurred on May 31st, 2019. I'd ask your counsel to acknowledge receipt and waive further formal reading of those charges and enter a plea on your behalf.
Yes, Your Honor. In line with the request by counsel, I do have in front of me a document indicates 2 counts. Jeffrey Nelson is entering a plea of not guilty to count 1, murder in the 2nd degree, and not guilty to count 2, assault in the 1st degree. And waive formal reading.
Please, the not guilty will be entered in both those cases next court date. We will be addressing conditions of release.
Okay.
I was
want to
wait till
Officer Jeff Nelson has entered a not guilty plea to both charges.
I will defer to Mr. Larson to address conditions of release from the of this state.
And I do have a couple of questions as I've read the certification. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor. As the court well knows that the issues of release, I hope the court will allow us to sort of go through our position on it. I know that it's been somewhat controversial, but pretrial release is controlled by, at this juncture, by Criminal Court Rule 3.2. That rule really addresses 4 related topics. It creates a presumption of pretrial release. It prohibits pretrial detention as a punitive measure. It requires that pretrial release decisions be carefully tailored to the circumstances of the case. And it requires the consideration of conditions of release before imposing a bail. The exceptions under 3.2 are this. The court should set bail if there is a flight risk. If the court deems that the defendant is likely to commit a violent crime while awaiting trial, or will seek to intimidate witnesses or otherwise unlawfully interfere with the administration of justice. So the facts as we see them in this case is the defendant a flight risk. This public investigation has been going on for 15 months. The Valley Investigative Team began this investigation in a public fashion. During those 15 months, the defendant has remained in the community. He obtained legal counsel from Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey has stayed in touch with me regularly throughout that period of time, asking for updates on the status of the investigation. Certainly they were aware that we were seriously and thoroughly considering a criminal investigation of the matter during that time. Considering those circumstances and the substantial ties that the defendant has to the community, we are unable to make an argument that there is a flight risk. Is the defendant a risk to tamper or interfere with the administration of justice, which is the second of the 2 exceptions? The charged crime occurred on video. There are several witnesses. We have been in touch with them during the pendency of the last 15 months. We're unaware that they've been contacted in any way that would be deemed improper by the defense in some fashion or by Mr. Nelson. Under these circumstances, we believe that a no contact order would be appropriate. But we don't think that those issues require the setting of bail. Finally, is the defendant a risk for committing a future violent offense? And the state believes there is a risk. Our charges are predicated on an allegation that the defendant used unlawful and excessive deadly force. There's nothing more serious that we can deal with in the criminal justice system than that. The facts in this case, though, also tell us that the use of force that is being alleged in our information uniquely arises out of the context of his work as a police officer. That is, we allege that his propensity for violence occurs in a context in which he is on the street working in law enforcement. Apart from that, apart from his work in law enforcement, we are unaware of any other circumstance that leads us to believe there's a risk of a violent offense occurring. So should the court impose bail on that basis? Under the rule, that's not the first question the court asks. The first question is there a condition of release that can be imposed would keep the community safe during the pendency of a case when the charges have not yet been in this unique case, there is a condition that we believe can be put into place that ameliorates any danger, and that is the court's power under the rule to prohibit the possession of any firearms. Along with that, it removes his ability to work in law enforcement during the pendency of the case as well. Our reading of the rule led us to the conclusion that that prevented us from asking for a bail amount, since we thought there were conditions that could be put into place to satisfy that. I know some have suggested that this is a change in standard by the prosecutor's office, and I think our view is simply this is a application of the rules to a very unique effect. Obviously, the court has the final say on what conditions, what bail should be imposed, and we entirely defer to the court on that. But I just wanted to go through our position. I hope the court would also hear from Elaine Simmons. She's a family representative, and she would like to be heard on the issue of bail, and I think she's entitled to under the Victim Bill of Rights. Thank you so much. Ms. Simmons?
Ms. Simmons, I'm going to have you stand right over here. Yes. Good morning. Keep it on, please, because you're still within 6 feet of people. Your full name, please?
Elaine Simons, S-I-M-O-N-S.
And Ms. Simons, what would you like the court to know?
First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the Saray family to please stand.
We interviewed
Good
Elaine
morning.
Simons yesterday.
Your Honor, my name is Elaine Simons. I was Jesse Saray's foster mother for 6 months when Jesse was 11 years old. At the time, I was fostering his younger brother, Terrell. I continued to foster Terrell for over 9 years until he aged out of the foster care system. I have been part of the Saray family for over 16 years and have traveled to Cambodia with them. I am currently an art teacher at Interagency King County Youth Detention Center and a respite foster mother for Friends of Youth. I am here to share with you why I feel Officer Jeff Nelson should be held on bail and be held to the highest standards for second-degree murder and first-degree assault as any other citizen would be held. Although the state has taken his issued weapons by not setting bail, the Saray family and other impacted families and witnesses who stand in solidarity with us feel unsafe. We do not know what personal ulteriority he has at home. Additional, our family does not understand why he is still on paid administrative leave. As an art teacher who works with youth at King County Youth Detention Center with BIPOC children, predominantly Black, Indigenous, people of color, I know that these young people do not have the opportunity to stay out of jail while waiting to go to court for crimes that are non-felony. We are also aware that some youth fall under the auto decline and have no opportunity to make bail. My students have been following this case since Jesse was killed. What message does that send to them that Jeff Nelson's freedom awaiting diminishes their worth? Mr. Nelson should not get special treatment or privilege. Let me bring to you attention to the case in King County. Thong Tim Seng was charged in 2019 with second-degree murder, and he was held on a $2 million bail. Both Jeff Nelson and Thong Tim Seng committed the same level of criminal behavior. Jeff Nelson should be similar to that of Thong Tim. I am asking you to take this case into serious consideration, particularly what message you are sending to the community. I am here in solidarity with the impacted families, and we, the community, are vested in bearing witness to this historic case. I implore you to give us the measure and the reassurance of knowing that Jeff Nelson will be arrested and held on bail at least $1.5 million to $2 million in keeping with the severity of his offense, that he is not above the law. Thank you for your consideration.
Anybody else, Mr. Larson?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel.
Your Honor, good morning. Appreciate the opportunity for all the parties here to have an appearance before the court. Last one being referred to the, if I understand correctly, 7.69 rule of the RCW. The court rule here with respect to the release of the accused is related to, of course, 3.2.1, as Your Honor knows. Mr. Larson walked through some of that rule with Your Honor, so I'm not going to belabor the issues because, frankly, he hit a lot of the things that normally any counsel in my position would be hitting on. The key here is that every individual that comes before Your Honor is to treat it in accordance with the rule, and as Your Honor knows, it's not a comparability issue, it's an issue of how that individual stacks up as against the rule. So the presumption, as Your Honor well knows, is under 3.2.1 is that actually there is a presumption of release on personal recognizance unless those factors that are laid out by counsel are hit, and I'd have to agree that every single factor that he hit with respect to the concerns and why bail is set here are not met, and the only place I'd probably highlight not a disagreement but a
Bluetooth disconnected.
I think one of the things I just heard was a reference to Officer Nelson being on paid administrative leave. As soon as, going back in time, as soon as this event occurred, I was contacted by Officer Nelson and have been involved in this matter since the
Bluetooth
outset.
connected.
As counsel has indicated, the client has, through myself, been in contact with King County Prosecutor's Office to find out the steps, the stages, where we were at. He literally has had, clearly no media footprint, made no statements in any way, has done nothing to make contact with witnesses. There are no objective, reasonable facts to believe that he's interfered with administrative justice or had any impact on any witnesses in any way. So with respect to all of those items, those issues don't rise, as far as I can tell, to the level of the rules that would shift the concerns of the court to imposing bail. However, the additional issue is he's been at work the entire time as a law enforcement officer and since the time of the event, and again, there's been zero issues regarding that during that time period regarding any contact. There's been no reasons, no factors to hopefully cause the court concerns on that area. Further, the fact that he immediately upon being informed of the tendency of these charges, his department took the additional acts of negotiating with him and working with him to get the surrender of all firearms from his premises, his possession. He's gone through the entire normal thing that people and folks do in front of Your Honor before or after Your Honor makes an imposition of a rule, surrender of firearms, etc. He's done all of that. And of course, the court will be ordering essentially those things that are ordered. He's already gone through that process. The issue of danger to the community then that was addressed, that I said that I would hopefully not necessarily disagree with, but there's really, in a state administrative status, he's not having contact with the community in the offices of employment. So if there was a concern at some point, because he's not actually engaging in the activity of a law enforcement officer while he's on administrative leave, I think it even reduces the concerns even more. He's essentially, for lack of a better way of putting it, on house arrest, because he basically sits at home under the auspices of administrative leave, where he has to report basically daily in and out. And for those concerns, those are some of the concerns that the court would have regarding not the monitoring, but the concerns the court would have regarding him having interaction with the public. It just won't be occurring. So with that, Your Honor, I think that was my only distinguishing factor. I agree with the state. I don't believe that there's a basis here for indication of bail, but again, I'm going to defer to Your Honor, and I appreciate Your Honor's time.
Thank you. And both parties are right. Rule 3.2 does presume release in non-capital cases because we presume innocence. Those are the fundamental principles of our Constitution. So let me say I'm a little surprised the state is arguing that from a principle standpoint. When I have heard arguments from the state with people for rendering criminal assistance who have no criminal history, whose case was 25 years old, and they're still asking for it.
That's right.
I have been doing this work for 17 years, and never have I seen, in my memory, a filing by summons for the charge of murder in the second degree. Never.
Thank you,
And
Your Honor.
the state is turning itself into pretzels to explain to me why the rule applies. I know the rule applies. I've been applying this rule for the last 2 years. That's all the analysis I do on a day-to-day basis. That being said, I understand that we believe that people should be held when they're convicted, not beforehand. And yet bail is there to do certain things. Number one, to make sure that people appear, to make sure that they avail themselves to the process, and to guarantee that they do so. Other conditions are there to ensure that the community is safe. And so, what is the proper combination to both guarantee that he appears for the process and that he is safe? The state is saying nothing is needed except conditions. And the state's argument is because he's a police officer. The fact of the matter is he's charged with intentional murder.
Yes. Yes.
He cannot escape that no matter what his profession is.
Yes.
And the idea that merely wearing a uniform means that somehow he cannot be violent in any other circumstance is not an argument that sits well with this court.
Wow.
Court finds that due to the nature of the charge, and he represents the correct one, he's no longer under investigation. He's now charged with murder. There is a big difference.
Thank you, Veronica.
They find that he is substantial likelihood of committing a violent act because the nature of the allegations here are such cause for concern.
Oh my God.
The court is going to do two things. It's going to set bail in the amount of $500,000 to ensure his presence in court, and if he makes bail, will also require him to be on electronic home detention.
Yes!
I understand he's forfeited his weapons permit. He's to not possess any firearms. He has to turn over his passport if he has one to the court. I don't know if that's already been surrendered.
I can actually address that.
That has to be surrendered.
He has no passport.
He has no passport? Thank you. He's not attempted to obtain one either.
My understanding is
Officer Jeff Nelson has been assigned $500,000 bail And if he makes bail, he is subject to home monitoring. He is to surrender his passport. They claim he does not have a passport. He is not allowed to apply for one.
He is to have no contact with any of the witnesses or the victim's family.
Wow.
He is
And those are 500,000 plus 10% parent bond. In this way, the court finds that we address both issues,
I know, it's big, isn't it?
allowing him to have his case be heard while on conditions that ensure that he appears in court and that address potential dangers.
Yes.
We may have lost the feed.
Your Honor,
Okay.
as a part of the motion at the filing, we asked for no possession of firearms. It was not an independent order that was signed. Is the court willing to enter the surrender order at this time? Also that. I have prepared a no contact order that does list the victim family members as well as the witnesses.
Yeah, both of this is unexpected.
Your Honor, is the court also ordering commit no crime?
No criminal law, all standard conditions, no leaving the state without permission, no criminal law violation.
I think it's a DUI. Drives with a broken tail light.
Bail and correspondent consent together in conjunction.
If you're just tuning in, we're here for the arraignment and bail hearing for Officer Jeff Nelson. Officer Jeff Nelson has been arraigned on first-degree assault and murder in the second degree. He has pled not guilty through his attorney on both charges. Officer Jeff Nelson is present in the courtroom. For bail, he was assigned $500,000 bail. If he makes bail, he is subject to home monitoring. He has a no contact order with all witnesses and victims. He must turn in all of his weapons and guns. He can no longer be a police officer in the state of, I presume anywhere, but in the state of Washington. He has to turn in his passport. He says he has no passport, and so he cannot apply for a
His
passport.
weapons. I have provided to the defense a declaration of non-surrender. I don't know if that's been filled out as yet.
The judge admonished the district attorney for having Officer Jeff
Your Honor, I
Nelson
hand
show
forward
up
a
to his
copy of the
arraignment on a
order,
summons for a second-degree
It
murder
appears
charge, and
a
for
waiver
not
for the
requesting
case
bail
setting
for
date,
him during this
an order of no
arraignment.
contact that appears to have been signed by the defendant, and a declaration of non-surrender.
And then
Yeah, we don't have a date forward yet, I understand, we're just waiting on that, is that correct, Your Honor?
So it's typically 2 weeks from today.
and the
Probably
judge admonished
September
him
8th, unless they want to
harshly.
do a waiver and waive out.
September 8th.
How about,
I apologize, Your Honor.
September 8th.
unless they want to
He
go.
said.
Understood. Working on that, Your Honor.
The officer said, the judge
Also
said,
hand a copy of the electronic public detention paperwork for counsel to review.
There's just an administrative conversation going on right
Your Honor,
now.
is it permissible to set a date
The
out?
judge
of 27?
blasted the district
September?
attorneys
September.
because they said that the only reason they were asking for no bail and that he was on there for a summons was because he was a police officer. That if he had been any other individual, he would have been arrested and been subject to a bail request, and that the facts are facts, and that Jeff Nelson is accused of second-degree murder and first-degree assault, and because of the violence of these accusations, he must make bail. We are listening to the courtroom feed outside of the Mailing Regional Justice Center in Kent, Washington, in the case of Officer Jeff Nelson, who shot Jesse Sarray twice on May 31st, 2019. That was in an interaction that lasted all of 67 seconds, in which Officer Jeff Nelson punched Jesse Sarray 7 times in the head, then fired 1 shot into his abdomen, fired a 2nd shot, his gun jammed, he cleared the gun, and even though Jesse Sarray was completely pacified and had suffered a fatal gunshot wound, fired a 3rd shot into his head. From the 1st shot to the 2nd shot was only 3.44 seconds. This is the 3rd officer-involved shooting and death that Officer Jeff Nelson has been involved in the city of Auburn, Washington in just 9 years. And he also struck an individual with his police cruiser intentionally over that 9-year period and has had 65 use of force incidents in those 9 years. For some perspective, in the last 11 years, the Auburn Police Department has had 5 officers-involved shootings that resulted in death. So 3 of those were Officer Jeff Nelson in that period. The city of Auburn also settled with the family of the person that Officer Jeff Nelson shot in 2017, and that person died for $1.25 million. That settlement was last week. That family has no recourse under Washington I-940 because Washington I-940 did not go into law until January 1, 2019. The Sarrays and Elaine Simons, Jesse's foster mom, have that legal recourse today.
Sorry?
Sir, we need to get the door open.
It's from our office.
There is
Mary
a,
Vaughn's from our office.
sorry about wiggling, I turned around behind me. There is a group behind me of about 20 supporters that have shown up here with Jesse
Your Honor,
and to support their family. They will eventually be going out of these
I'm
doors.
handing to the defense, the defendant, a copy of the no contact order. This order prohibits any contact by you, Mr. Nelson, with the victim's family as well as the witnesses in this case. Do I acknowledge it, please?
Can you make sure my name's on there too?
The bathroom, please. Thank you.
This was the second interaction that Officer Jeff Nelson had had with Jesse Sarray that day. Officer Nelson had had an interaction with him about 20 minutes later. Jesse was having some kind of what is believed a mental health crisis at the time, and there had been a call, and then about 20 minutes later there had been an additional call. By the time that Officer Jeff Nelson had arrived, Jesse was already de-escalating. He had not really done anything, say that to a level of criminality if you used officer discretion. Officer Jeff Nelson said he was going to arrest him for disorderly conduct based on essentially eyewitnesses' reports, not on anything that Officer Jeff Nelson himself had witnessed. and 67 seconds later, from Officer Jeff Nelson walking out of his cruiser, Jesse Saray was dead. Or I should say dying on the ground, but it was ultimately the first shot, according to the medical examiner, is the shot that killed him.
That's the third.
Oh, sorry, missed that.
This is the first case in Washington State to be tried under Washington Initiative 940. And this is a case that is getting national attention because of the implications it may have for other states that are considering similar legislation. Washington I-940 had several pillars. The first pillar was that an officer, if they cause bodily injury, are to render and offer first aid to the person instead of waiting for EMS to arrive or not render any aid. The second thing is, in an officer-involved shooting, there needs to be an independent investigation, not an investigation by the municipality that happens to be just next to that town or another town. The third...
And I would just clarify that all weapons, both work as well as personal, have been surrendered.
I understand, is that correct? Yes.
And your CDL as well.
1 second. Jeff Nelson has just acknowledged that he has surrendered all of his weapons, both personal and service weapons.
I did, Your
The third component, the most critical component of Washington I-940, is that before I-940, the way that Washington state law was written, in order to prosecute an officer of criminal misconduct in the grievous harm or death of a suspect, you had to prove malice. Even when prosecutors wanted to charge officers, because malice is a concept, it's not anything you can necessarily prove. It made it essentially impossible to convict any officer in the state of Washington. The biggest change that Washington I-940 did was strike the word malice and replace it with essentially would any other reasonable officer behave in that way. In the case of Officer Nelson, King County prosecutors showed the videos that were available to other prosecutors and to other law enforcement officials in different states, and there was essentially, as we understand, unanimous consensus that Officer Nelson did not behave in a reasonable way that day, and this is why he has now been officially arraigned on second-degree murder and first-degree assault.
Mike.
And I believe that the minimum sentence he could be looking at is 20 years. If I understand my RCW, we go to the minimum charge of first-degree assault. I believe the minimum is 20 years. So he is looking at 20 years
Your
to
Honor,
life.
there is a remand order that I was processing, and luckily that is just as done. Thank you.
As a regular calendar that I'm going to use, and I think it's great because that the court can figure out, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Thanks.
All rise for the recess.
Recess has been declared in the court. There's additionally a large contingent of Jesse's supporters and family that are in the courtroom. We were able to see them come in earlier today. Officer Jeff Nelson, I got to see him and his contingent and attorneys coming into the courthouse this morning a little after 7:30. I arrived here maybe like about 7:35, and as I was driving up, I could see them walking to the courthouse entrance. And then approximately 7:45 or 7:50, the family and the extended family of Jesse Saray started arriving at the courthouse. This is a historic moment in the state of Washington. If you're just tuning in, we are in Kent, Washington at the Malang Regional Justice Center, where Officer Jeff Nelson of the Auburn Police Department has just been arraigned on second-degree murder and first-degree assault charges in the death of Jesse Saray, who was shot while Officer Jeff Nelson was in the line of duty. This is, as I understand, the first police officer to be charged in Washington State in more than 30 years. I need to confirm that, but that is what I have heard.
Bluetooth disconnected.
The prosecutors in the case with King County did not ask for bail. Their justification is that Officer Nelson, by virtue of being a police officer, did not meet the legal requirements for bail. The judge blasted the prosecutors in the case for their stand on it. The judge said that in her 17 years, she has never had somebody come on a second-degree murder charge simply on a summons in her entire career. And that was, my word, egregious, that's my word, by the prosecutors, and that simply because he is a police officer is not a valid reason that Officer Nelson has committed stands accused now and has been charged of committing 2 brutal crimes, and he must be put on bail. So bail was set at $500,000. That is not cash bond. He can do a 10% a cash surety bond. So in $50,000, he could bail out. And then if he bails out, he is to be on home detention. He is not allowed to have any weapons. He has said that he has turned in all of his weapons along with his service weapons. He can no longer be a police officer. He has to turn in his passport. He claims he does not have a passport. He was told he is not permitted to apply for a passport. So right now what we're doing is So right now what's going on is we are waiting for the family to exit, and they will exit out of this area, and we may get a statement from the family. How you doing? How you doing? Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And some of the people now are starting to emerge from the courthouse to applause and a standing ovation. Here comes the family. Family of Jesse Saray, Elaine Simons, his foster mother. And they will be making a general statement.
Okay, I'm gonna wait. We're letting you guys set up. Are you a reporter? Maybe someone else should do it. Try again.
Cushman.
So get a picture of our family and then go right to the video.
Okay.
No. Let's hold on. No.
Leslie.
Come on, guys.
Very brief.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, if you want to, 1 second, we're getting a mic that's working. Can we have the family be able to step forward, please? We also have donuts. What? We also have donuts. I have one question before you guys start. Did you get to hear anything in there?
Yes, we've heard everything.
We heard it all.
You can say again for
You guys heard it all? You guys heard her speech? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask. Did you hear the speech?
I didn't know.
Yes.
I was late, so.
Yes.
Some people said no.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't hear it. Okay. We're gonna invite
You were great.
I might just put it on. Oh, yeah, he got it.
Yeah, because you know there was going to be hell to pay if there was no bail.
Person, there.
The family of Jesse Sare has come out.
Can you reference the case?
And they are going to be making a statement.
If you want to bring them up here.
We have a few announcements that we would like to make, and we have kind of an order of things that are going to happen. So we're going to begin with the Sare family and allowing them to make some statements if they wish. Then we are going to extend our invitation to the impacted families that are here with us. We would like them to have a chance to be able to share their stories because this is also their story. And then we have Leslie Cushman and people from the I-940 that we are going to then have them step up and talk about a piece of bill that they had done that has led us to this point. So first, I just want to say, on behalf of the Sare family, thank you. This has been a long 13, 14 months. We've been telling you the narrative of Jesse's story, and that story will continue. However, today is making history in the state of Washington. The first police officer in 30 years has been arrested and charged for
Yes. Yes. Yes.
charged for second-degree murder and first-degree assault. They were going to allow him to walk out without due process of holding him. Officer Jeff Nelson is now Jeff Nelson. So I ask you, do not refer to him as an officer. So from now on, our narrative is Jeff Nelson has been arrested. A bill has been set. He will be on house ankle monitor, just like a person should be. And the woman, the judge, heard us and she recognized it. And I cannot even begin to tell you how important that is, not only to the Sare family, but to our key witnesses and to our impacted families who stood by us for this entire time. So I want to thank you. I will have a few more words, but I first want to see if there's anyone from the Sare family that would like to say something. It'll be an acknowledgement. Thank you. Okay. Got it.
Justice for Jesse.
Yes! Yes!
History in the making, so Jeff Nelson's career can be history.
That's right. That's
Thank
right.
you.
Any other family? At this time, we are going to allow some impacted families, but I do want to shout out some names. So I'm not sure who's here. If a family, impacted family's here, can you please shout out your loved one's name? Renee Davis. Say her name.
Renee Davis.
Leonard Thomas.
Leonard Thomas.
Daniel Covarrubias.
Daniel Covarrubias.
Yosia.
Yosia.
Giovanni Joseph McDade.
Giovanni Joseph McDade.
Charlena Lyles.
Charlena Lyles.
Sean Furr.
Sean Furr.
All of
Costelli. Costelli. Isaiah Omet.
EJ Enosa Strickland.
Issa Enosa Strickland.
All right. I really want to welcome up some of the family members that are here. I'm going to start off with Poe, and then can you pass it on to some of the other impacted family members?
Thank you all for being here, first of all. Thank you to the Saray family for having me and letting me share my story. My name is Poe Leapai. I am an educator, an artist, and an audio engineer from out of this area. I grew up right here in Kent. I'm here on behalf of my family. The Yosia Faletongo, my cousin, was killed on New Year's Eve 2018 by Seattle Police, North Precinct. This was the second killing by this same officer in less than a year. His second killing in a year. My cousin was 36 and he had 2 sons under 10 years old. Now my family's embraced the boys and we're raising them on our own, with the mother, of course. And we just want justice. We haven't gotten an inquest. We've been dismissed and treated very insensitive and by SPOG and by the SPD. And we're praying for an inquest for my family so we can get justice for Yosia. And that's pretty much why I'm here. I feel like we're here because there's been a lack of transparency and accountability. And I don't believe that police prevent crimes. I believe preventing crimes involves funding social programs and community programs and mental health and education. You know, then we will alleviate the need for police presence in our neighborhoods. And that's all I have to say. God bless y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Renee Davis. Can someone from her family come up? I saw you were down below. Where is she?
She's coming.
Yeah, you should have been up here with us, hon.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Bargala. I am Renee Davis's foster sister. I'm here on behalf of the family and behalf on the Muckleshoot tribe. The last time I left this courtroom was when our civil case was dismissed for the malice requirement. So I really want to thank every single person that has worked on I-940 because this victory is a victory for every single person killed by the police. This victory is a victory for Renee. This victory is a victory for the Saray family. This is change coming. And I'm so proud to be here today. Thank you.
The next person I would like to invite up is Sonia, please.
My name is Sonia Joseph. I'm the mother of Yovng Joseph McDade, who was killed here in the city of Kent on June 24th, 2017. And today was an emotional day for me, for every single family here, because all of us want justice for our loved ones. And we've been denied that over and over and over. And we'll continue to fight and work towards police accountability. Thank you.
It's important that you understand impacted families are important. We are family, and that's why their voices need to be amplified. Katrina, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, guys. Today, I didn't know that I would be this excited because I, like everybody else, was trying to figure out why somebody that was convicted of, or that was on charges for second-degree murder was still walking among us and not going through the criminal legal system like everybody else who usually is up on charges of second-degree murder. And I'm so glad that the judge saw fit to do some corrective action that was not taking place today on behalf of community and on behalf of impacted families and the Saray family. And I just thank you all for your continued strength and letting us stand alongside you guys as you guys go through this journey. And I just ask that community continue to be there and support this family, because this is just the beginning. And most of our families know that there is intimidation and there are other things that come along with that. So we need to make sure that impacted families are in the forefront, but we also need you guys to have our front, our back, and our sides, okay? That is your guys' duty, to protect the people who are out there paving the way so that you and your loved ones will be safe. And I just thank everybody, including Andre Taylor and Dove Taylor, who were visionaries when this first started for Initiative 940, and that families turned their pain into purpose, knowing that they would be fighting for everybody else that was to come, and that their families wouldn't receive the justice that this family is going to be able to get. So when we were out there on the front lines, Marilyn, Jackie Sawyers, Fred Thomas, all that, all our pain and our struggle that we went through was for this family today.
Yes.
When one family wins, we all win. Yes. We are the families. We are the experts. Let us continue to lead, and we want to see more of these happen, not just for the Saray family, but there is also Manny Ellis's family. We want to see charges brought in that case for Sean Fjord as well, and any other family who falls under 940, whose family has been victimized and brutalized by the police department. We are here. We have put you on record. We have put you on notice that we will not stand for you guys to not represent community and show up on behalf of community any longer. We are taking our power back.
Yes! Thank you, Katrina. I'd like to
Hi, my name is Annalisa Thomas. 7 years ago, my son was shot and killed by Pierce County SWAT. Unarmed! And we won in a civil suit, but we did not win. Because in our case, 3 officers were found punitively liable and said to be directly responsible for the actions that led to my son's death. One is a chief of police, one is a critical incident chainer. All 3 of them have been awarded and touted as doing something wonderful. And that has to stop. And since our case, on May 1st, one of the officers that was found punitively liable in our case killed Sayed Joquin. So it continues. There has to be accountability. And accountability means law, means legislation that will make them just like another citizen when they take someone's life. Thank you.
Woo! Are there any other impacted families that are personally impacted?
Hi, my name is Marilyn Covarrubias. Daniel Covarrubias was my son. He was killed over 5 years ago. He was on his way home from the hospital. He had no weapon. Within a few seconds after the arrival of David Butts and Ryan Hamilton, they shot him 7 times and killed him. He was on his way home from the hospital, and he was injured. Anyways, this is what I wanted to say. We, as the families, have gone through intimidation, harassment, really ugly things that have happened to us, you know, that I won't go into right here, but we've been followed, and all of this stuff, we want you guys to know, because when they start harassing us, and if any of us end up in jail or anything like that, you'll know that that's the reason it happened.
No, that's real.
Hello, my name is Fred Thomas, and like my wife said, 7 years ago, our son was murdered by a Lakewood sniper while he was holding his 4-year-old son in his arms. They gut shot him. Well, first off, I'd like to thank the Saray family for making history.
Yes!
But in saying that, I want to let everyone know this is not a sprint. This is no longer a marathon. This is now a relay race. And this is just the first leg of that relay race. Yeah, he was charged, But now we've got to make sure that the charges stick. Now we've got to keep our voices going, because we all know once the voices go away, once the cameras quit clicking, the police go back to normal. In all these other cases, when we go down to Lakewood, when we go to Tacoma, they're just looking out the window waiting for us to go away so they can get back to business as usual. Well, I-940 says there is no more business as usual. It is a new day. But in this new day, we still need all of you. We need more than just the families. We need to have you lift our voices up. Let everyone keep hearing us. This is not a Seattle problem. This is not a problem. This is not a Tacoma problem. This is a Washington State problem. This is a national problem. This is a hatred problem. This is a non-accountability problem. This is the right to kill people and not face the facts and not telling the truth and being able to get away with murder. Time for murderers to go to jail.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
I want to know if our lawyer wants to speak. If they don't come up, then that's fine. Okay. I want to just take a second here. I want everyone that is watching this, because I know this is, can someone hold this for me? I know this is live stream, so before I introduce our next guest, I want to have everyone pull out their phones. Go to change.org.
Go to change.org.
Click the search button on the right. Type in Jesse. Click on Jesse's petition. Send it to 4 other families and friends for every second between the first shot and the last shot. 4 seconds for Jesse. Are there any other impacted families? Because we have other special people that we would like to invite up to speak, but I've given space first to my impacted families. So is anyone else here? Then what I would like to do is let you know how it's going to roll. We have a special Cambodian spoken words person that I want to first give space. He's going to do about a 3-minute spoken words. Then we're going to turn it over to the I-940 folks, and I've got a list of them. I am asking you, please stay and hear out the I-940 folks too. So is Bumthe here? I don't know if he's here. Come on up, my friend.
It's so bright.
Bumthe's going to share some words coming from the Khmer community. Welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Let's give it up one more time for the families that hold us up. They're really, really pushing these. So let's give it up one more time for them. Yes. This is a courageous thing to do. Justice for Jesse. Justice for Jesse.
Justice for Jesse.
Justice for Jesse.
Justice for Jesse.
My name is Buntai Chim. I'm a Khmer community member from Seattle. Thank you for the nice introduction. I appreciate you saying that. If it's okay, I'll just share a couple pieces of work, if that's okay with y'all. Before I get into that, I just want to say that I hope that my Khmer community folks, my Southeast Asian community folks, all my black and brown folks understand that our liberation is linked, and that this today was an example of state-sanctioned violence on any community, black and brown. So that I hope y'all come out and y'all believe that Black Lives Matter. No lives matter until Black Lives Matter. So I hope that you understand that all these communities coming together, we don't have the same institutional power like some of these institutions do, So our power is in the people, so I hope that you understand that our liberation is linked and that you come out here into events like this in the future. So I'm gonna do a piece, and hopefully, if there's more time, you can let me know if I have more time, and I could do a one more piece. So the following piece is something I wrote just thinking about Khmer people. I'm gonna use the term Khmer and Cambodian interchangeably. Khmer being the ethnic, our ethnic identity, our language, our writing, and Cambodian being our national origin. We came here as refugees during the 80s wave with other Southeast Asian communities during the largest refugee resettlement program. So my first piece is just about kind of that journey. It's called Where Do You Work? Where do you work? Boeing. You say with a softened tone that makes the syllables pliable to stretching the word out like the cheese in your fried mozzarella sticks. Khmer people, we're working at Boeing with a badge of honor, as if given the graveyard shift on the 787 MAX line was being given a hall pass because now you could skip classes and cafeteria food for Olive Garden. Khmer refugees stepped off Boeing jets at SeaTac Airport as part of the largest refugee resettlement program in the United States history, ushered in by the wave of President Carter's pen. An enclave that sprang up was in White Center, where Khmer refugees found a community in King County Housing Authority's Park Lake Homes, housing that had been repurposed from World War II era dwellings built to house Boeing workers that built machines of war along the Duwamish River. When Khmer families could afford to leave Park Lake Homes, many settled in nearby South Park, a neighborhood in the Duwamish Valley that shares shoreline with many Boeing plants and buildings along a river in which the diaspora fished for salmon and the connecting bay for squid to make their traditional trai, mok, and nyom muk. But the origins of this Thanksgiving didn't begin there. On 18 March 1969, 48 Boeing B-52 Stratofortress bombers arrived over Base Area 353, the Fishhook region of eastern Cambodia, to deliver 2,900 tons of leftovers from a Pentagon planning session in which the bombing run was devised, named Operation Breakfast. H.R. Haldeman, Nixon's chief of staff, noted that the final decision to carpet bomb Cambodia was made at a meeting in the Oval Office Sunday afternoon after the church service. In his diary, on 17 March 1969, Haldeman wrote, "Historic day. Kissinger's Operation Breakfast finally came off at 2 p.m. our time. Kissinger, really excited, as is President. The people loved the food so much in Nixon's terms that he decided to give more. 5 more meals were greenlit. Lunch, Base Area 609. Snack, Base Area 351. Dinner, Base Area 352. Supper, Base Area 740. And dessert, Base Area 350. The bloating amount of food began a domino effect of destabilization that would soon result in the deaths of millions and a genocide and displacement of even more from homes to labor camps, from labor camps to refugee camps, and eventually into the former homes of the people who built the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress bombers. Between 1952 and 1962, a bulk of 744 bombers would be assembled by workers living in Park Lake homes. And now, many of those that were showered by the meals and their children and grandchildren now work in the various Boeing plants across the Salish Sea region, Kent, Renton, Seattle, Everett. Dear Mr. Nixon, your leftover ordinance, almost 3 million, we still eat full of anguish, bowls of craters left behind. Thank you.
All right, before I turn this over to Leslie, who's going to introduce some of the key players of I'm 40, I do want to be acknowledging and thanking 442. If you guys can stand up, please. We've been working with these people. Come on over for a second so that I can move it on. But 442 is out of Kent. They're the ones who set up out here and been supporting us during this journey. I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you, young BIPOC young people making changes in Kent and South King County. I'm just going to let one of you speak briefly, so whoever, and then I got to turn it over. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the families this morning. And this is an advance thank you for your continued support of families, because this is just the beginning. And there are so many families that need this moment that have not gotten this moment. And we have to keep fighting for that. And as BIPOC youth in the city of Kent, who live where this regional justice center is, but has continuously not given justice to these families, we will be continuing to support the families as much as humanly possible. You can follow us on Instagram and at Facebook at 442. If you can't find it, come find one of us. We want you to be connected. We especially want the BIPOC youth of Kent to be connected. Thank you.
Afterwards, any media that wants to speak individually, I know who will be willing to speak within our family. So when we're done, if you want, just let us know. Right now, I would like to turn this over to Leslie Kushner. She is going to talk a little about I-940, and then Amy Parker, I would love to be able to let you have a chance to speak as well, so make sure Amy gets a chance, and take it over.
Thank you so much. I'm Leslie Cushman. I was the citizen sponsor of I-940, and I-940 would be nothing without the families. So thanking the people who worked on I-940, Katrina, Sonia, Marilyn, Fred, Annalisa. I'm not gonna remember everybody that's here. And then we have lots of people, and would you just raise your hands? Monisha, Martina, lots of 940 people here. So 940 is taking a pivot. And Monisha's going to talk about that pivot. I'm just going to tell you that lives depend on this work. There's an urgency to add more accountability to the system. The officer has been protected by his city. Auburn and the police department have protected this person. He has known misconduct. Make no mistake about it. We are engaged in anti-corruption work. Officers and deaths like this are criminal. They were criminal before 940. And the prosecutors had no guts to charge. The death of Isaiah Obet should have been charged. It was absolutely an execution, and the city of Auburn should be ashamed. And please remember, many deaths before 940 were malicious and should have been charged. There's hundreds of them. They were malicious. There was indifference and evil intent, disregard for humanity. It pisses us off.
And the challenge is
So
maliciousness is basically impossible to prove.
We should see Manny Ellis charged. If we don't get that, we're going to go berserk. Yeah! Okay, we are. It's outrageous. Stone Child Chief Stack. You look online for the episodes that they've done on the podcast. You're going to be outraged that Officer Keller, I think the man's name is walking around free. So this is historic. This is absolutely historic, and I'm just grateful that the family of Jesse Surratt is allowing me to speak here today. To assure fairness, we need special prosecutors that aren't associated with the law enforcement, which they work with every day. That's right. We need completely independent criminal investigations, completely independent from law enforcement. Police cannot investigate police. They cannot. We know that, right? We need to start taking away the licenses of cops with misconduct. Can you imagine a nurse with misconduct being able to go back to work? It's ridiculous. We need to address deadly tactics and militarization. There's so much. Chokeholds, police dogs, hot pursuits. The violence has to stop. And the culture of protection. We have the city and the police department. Can you imagine the prosecutor asked that this officer today be monitored by his own police department as if that was good enough? That's ridiculous. So why would this officer not be treated like any other murder? Give me a break. The prosecutor should be advocating for the public. We, the public, for the public, right? We have plenty of work to do, and Monisha's going to talk for just a second. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Monisha Harrell, and I'm the board chair for Equal Rights Washington. I also was a co-chair for the initiative 940 De-Escalate Washington. We knew that 940 was just the beginning of this work. There is no one single piece of legislation that can solve the problems that have been plaguing this country for centuries. And that work begins with a little bit of justice that we saw here today, a little bit, but it is not nearly enough. And we know that there is much work to do and a lot that we have to do to go forward. And that is where we need your support and your help. There are so many families who have not been able to get the little taste of justice that was received today. But justice delayed is justice denied.
That's right.
We cannot expect one piece of legislation, we cannot expect one moment to change. There's too much of a force and power that is expecting us to go back to normal, to be happy with this and say, and now it's all solved, and go back to bed. That is not what we're doing here today. Today is the beginning of a movement and a moment that shows that we have so much more to do, and we're going to do it this year in the state legislature. We have probably 20 or 30 different bills that will come forward this year. They're going to range everything from independent investigations. You should not be allowed to investigate your peers and expect a fair outcome for the public. They will involve special prosecutors, because we know that prosecutors have a conflict of interest. When all of their other cases rely on law enforcement to make those cases, they are not going to give a fair prosecution to those people that they rely on for the rest of their job. They will be everything from not covering your badges, your name, and your number. When you are out in public and you are working on the job, transparency is the thing that is going to protect the public. There's a lot of work to do. We need each one of you to stay engaged and involved to do that work. I want to thank the Saray family for allowing us to be a part of this moment. I want to thank the families, the 940 families that we have been working with to get this far. This is not an organization or group that they ever wanted to belong to. They give so much of themselves in order to save other families, other lives, and hopefully keep other children with their parents. They do this for the love of community, and they have not let their grief stand in the way of ensuring that the rest of us don't have to feel this. This is not a club anybody wants to be a part of. I want to thank them for getting up every day and making sure that justice has been at the forefront of the work they do. We could not do this without you, and we cannot do this without all of you speaking up. When you see wrong, say it and be a part of the solution. Thank you so much.
Does anyone know where my gray coat is? I gave it to someone. Thank you. No, keep it. Keep it. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Amy Parker, and I'm a King County Public Defender. I represent the family of Isaiah Obet in the inquest proceeding. Isaiah was killed by Jeff Nelson. He is the second person who was killed by Jeff Nelson. Third. Jesse was the third. Auburn Police Department since 2011 has killed 5 people. Nelson has killed 3 of those 5. Officer Jeff Nelson had 65 reports of use of force. Now, I told you that I'm a public defender. I've been a public defender for 15 years. my entire career. I've been investigating police for my entire career, and I have never seen a use of force history like this. Never. I also want to point out that throughout every use of force, there is an investigation, and there is an obligation by the police department to investigate, and they continued to let Jeff Nelson stay on the force, despite the fact that he had this horrific pattern of use of force. On his arms, he has tattooed, "Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 8. A tattoo that signifies a warrior mentality of kill or be killed. This is not what I or the Obet family thinks law enforcement should be about. The families are leading this fight, and the lawyers are doing the best job to keep up that they can. But they are the true heroes here today. The families are the true heroes. I've also heard a call for independent oversight. What I can offer is my experience as a public defender. When I reviewed the VIT investigation I reviewed Jesse Saray and also Isaiah Obet's investigation. The investigation was an investigation to prove that a homicide did not occur.
Right.
When my clients are charged, they are charged within 2 days, and they do the investigation later. When my clients are charged, the police reports aren't written objectively. They're written in a way that assumes guilt. If my clients got the same benefit of law enforcement, whether it be a shoplift or whether it be a homicide, we would not be facing the issues that we're facing with our criminal legal system today. But my clients, mainly black and brown people, do not get that benefit. And as we all know, it is a racist system. So I just want to thank the families for giving me an opportunity to speak. As a public defender, I can tell you that this has been heartbreaking to watch the double standard given to Officer Nelson. Do I support bail reform for everybody? Yes. Do I think Officer Nelson should have been the first person to get that opportunity? No, I do not. Thank you all very much, and thank you, Elaine, for letting me speak.
I don't want to leave anyone out that is either from the I-940, impacted families. Did I address everybody? Yeah? Then I'm just going to do, I'm not good at chanting. So, what? Oh, James!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you didn't, I didn't have a mask. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up to James Bible.
My heart breaks every time I walk into the home of loved ones that are seeking answers because law enforcement killed their child, their husband, their brother, their cousin, their uncle. Each one of them has more questions than answers and wonders why that level of violence had to occur. And the truth ultimately is that it didn't. The reality, as Leslie Cushman said, was that prosecutors' offices always could have prosecuted these cases. I-940 actually gets rid of some of those excuses. The reality at this moment is I represent a young man whose father, Mr. Furr, is seeking justice for his son, seeking justice for his grandchild, was holding his grandchild, his son was holding his grandchild as police officers from Seattle's police department used a sniper's bullet to gun him down. I think of the late nights when the Manny Ellis family calls me in tears because they've broken down, because they can't move forward, because they can't take the pressure any longer, because their hearts are hurting, because they don't know how to move forward without their brother, without their son. Manny Ellis was murdered in Pierce County. Manny Ellis was murdered in Tacoma. 3 separate videos, multiple independent witnesses that all say that Manny Ellis had done nothing wrong, and we now know his last words were, "I can't breathe, sir." A last moment of respect to those that were so disrespectful to his humanity. A reality is present in so many of these cases, and I spoke to some of your family members, which is why I gave you a fist pump just last week. And I saw that video, and I saw that there was no gun in that man's hand. I saw that he was trying to say the words, "I'm not resisting." As an individual who doesn't deserve the dignity of being called an officer, shot him in the head. We are better than these moments. We are better than these moments as a system. I think that it's time to announce this here. While the King County Prosecutor's Office finally did prosecute Mr. Nelson, this could have been done a long time ago. If they had prosecuted in relation to Mr. Obet, then Jesse might be here standing with us today in relation to that.
All right.
It shouldn't take 3 killings to decide somebody's a murderer.
That's right.
It is time for us to do better. And my suggestion is that we start calling public defenders the people. And when I say that, what I mean is that it's time for the people to prosecute police officers.
Yeah.
What independent investigation and prosecution should look like in this state, in every state in this country, should be led by public defenders. Public defenders don't have that investment with law enforcement. They do not rely on them for their future cases. They are used to having an adversarial relationship with institutional power. They do not stand in a place where they say, "Oh, I forgive you, you must be misunderstood, and it's such a rough, tough job." They are the only ones that will hold law enforcement to the standard that's necessary. So starting today, starting right now, why don't we start pushing for public defenders to be those that prosecute officers? Because I know my public defender friends would not have gone in and said, "No bail for this man, let's just give him electronic home detention. Oh, please, sir, did you separate and get away from your weapons?" No! They would have handed him, or they would have argued for the standards that are absolutely necessary when somebody has committed 3 separate homicides.
Thank you. What I want to do in closing, in case people did not hear, so when the prosecution did not ask for bail, I wanted to make sure that our family had a chance to be able to address Jeff Nelson. And it was, okay. So I'm just going to read it to you in closure. Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Elaine Simons. I was Jesse Saray's foster mother for 6 months when Jesse was 11 years old. At the same time, I was fostering his younger brother, Terrell. I continued to foster Terrell for over 9 years until he aged out of my home. I have been part of the Saray family for over 16 years. They are family. I am currently an art teacher at Interagency King County Youth Detention Center and a respite foster parent with Friends of Youth. I am here to share why Officer Jeff Nelson should be held on bail and be held to the highest standard for second-degree murder and first-degree assault as any citizen would be held. Although the state has taken his issue weapons by not setting bail, the Saray family and other impacted families and witnesses who stand in solidarity with us feel unsafe. We do not know what personal artillery he has at home.
Additionally, our family does not understand why he is still on paid administrative leave. As an art teacher who works with youth at King County Youth Center, predominantly Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC, I know that these young people do not have the opportunity to stay out of jail while waiting to go to court for crimes that are non-felonies. We are also aware that some youth fall under the auto decline and have no opportunity to make bail. My students have been following this case since Jesse was killed. What message does that send to them? That Jeff Nelson, freedom, awaiting trial, diminishes their worth. Mr. Nelson should not get special treatment or privilege. Let me bring to your attention a case in King County. Vaughn Kim Sung was charged in 2019 with second-degree murder. He was held on a $2 million bail. Both Jeff Nelson and Vaughn Kim Sung committed the same level of criminal behavior. Jeff Nelson's bail should be similar to that of Vaughn Kim. I am asking you to take this same case into serious consideration, particularly what message you are sending to the community. I am in solidarity with impacted families, and we, the community, are vested in bearing witness to this historic case. I implore you, Judge, to give us the reassurance of knowing that Jeff Nelson will be arrested and held on a bail, I asked for $2 million, in keeping with the severity of his offense, and that he is not above the law. So,
Elaine read that in court. Bail was assigned by the judge.
the most exciting part, and I am gonna be real now, no more script, was going inside and being able to look at Officer Nelson in the eye. We've been waiting 13 months for that opportunity. The other part that was really exciting was that the judge agreed with us, the people, and was surprised that he was going to not. And so we got to sit there, and if you guys never got to see this opportunity, we saw him have to get up and put his hands behind his back and get arrested. I know. Anyone that was in there, man, was that beautiful or what? Yes. So I just want to let you guys know, it may be not as significant as maybe we hoped. In some respect, the bail was really low, but the bail, if we kept that GoFundMe up that he had for his dog, he would have made bail today. But because of people out there who put up a counter protest, you took down Jeff Nelson's GoFundMe. Whoa! So I thank you guys, because if he had that GoFundMe, he would have had his bail money today. So I want to thank you. This is a long journey ahead of us. What I ask for you out of respect to us and our family is if you could be present. We're going to try to show up as to anything and everything. Please, always, when you hear that there is something happening, wherever you are, please send us the strength that our family's going to need for the next probably 12 months. They've got to select a jury. There's a lot of work ahead for them, but we are going to continue the fight for the other families. Thank you.
Have some donuts and enjoy. I'm a buffer. If you want to talk to anyone for the spokesman, ask me. Please do not bombard the family. I know who wants to speak.
Please take the donuts and not taking them home.
Hey, Elaine.
I'm gonna break COVID. Oh, good to see you. I know. I don't know what happened to mine.
Elaine, we would.
I haven't seen you in forever. I know.
The press.
We're being really busy with projects. Good.
We're going to just wait our turn and respect the family here. If you're just tuning in, we are in Kent, Washington. We are at the Mullane We are at the Milan Regional Justice Center in Kent, Washington, and we are here at the conviction of Jeff Nelson. He is no longer a police officer. Apologies, not conviction, arraignment for Jeff Nelson, who is no longer a police officer. Jeff Nelson walked in court, a free man today, on a summons for first-degree assault and second-degree murder. And the judge admonished the prosecutors for having him come on such high charges and capital crimes on a summons. Prosecutors asked for no bail. That was denied by the judge. That was denied by the judge, who assigned bail at $500,000. Jeff Nelson will be required to have home monitoring. Prosecutors argued that the Auburn Police Department could monitor their own. That was denied. Jeff Nelson was told he had to turn in his passport. He said he had no passport. He is not allowed to apply for a passport. He has to turn in all of his weapons and his service weapons. He had stated that he has turned in all of his weapons and his service weapons. He can no longer operate as a police officer, and they're going to do like a little Q&A right now. And so what I just want to do is just, instead of having them answer the same questions over and over again, we will just, hello, nice to meet you in person. A big day today.
Sonia. Bye.
Good choice to hang out in the shade. I'm sure.
Yeah, I was sweating over there.
It is weirdly hot up there.
Reported several times. So yeah, anybody could ask questions. Go ahead. Great. But if you want to ask questions, you're welcome.
Can I first get spellings of names?
Elaine Simons, Simons.
ELAINE?
Correct.
Okay. And your mom?
No, I'm actually an impacted family. My name is Sonia Joseph, Sonia, Joseph, Joseph, and my son was killed here in the city of Kent, and his name is Yovng Joseph McDade, McDade, and Yovng is Giovonn.
All right, questions?
So take us through today's hearing. I mean, why was it so important?
So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it.
So why was it so important to be here today for Jeff Nelson's arraignment?
Why was it important for our family to be here? Because if you heard, the prosecution was not going to ask for bail. And so we as a family wanted to be able to have our counter argument. And so I was the spokesperson. I worked really hard on it. I had about 5 different people helping with this speech. And I just want to let you know that I believe if we did not come and testify and have the family fill up that room, that they would not humanize Jesse. And the judge agreed with us, and she was even, I mean, she rocked it. I had a hard time hearing, and I had to look over at everyone. I said, did we win? Did we win? I was not even sure at first, but we got him arrested, and I think that is one of the most important things that could have happened today.
Yeah. It was very emotional to see an officer be charged with murder and to be arrested and to be treated like any other criminal that has committed murder.
If you notice, I started off calling him Officer Nelson, and then he became a civilian. I turned his name into Jeff Nelson purposely. That he is no longer a police in the Auburn Police Department.
How last week when the charges came out, you guys have mentioned that this was a big win. What is today? Last week when charges came out, you guys kept saying this is a big win. What does today mean to you guys?
To the Surrey family, what it means is that Jesse was not just an insignificant person, and that it humanized him, and it also gave hope to a lot of other families out there. Because to be able to get a police officer charged and arrested for second degree murder and first degree assault is telling our community and telling the nation that no police officer is above the law and that they have got to be held to the same standard as our community would be held. And as a teacher that works with kids in the juvenile justice system, I see children on lesser crimes being held. So why are their liberties being taken away? Why are those children being locked up in cages and they not are having the same opportunity? What message do we send to those children?
Elaine, Sophia, we interviewed yesterday, and one of the things, Sonia, God, Sonia, I have really, I feel a little better about it. Let me start over again. Elaine and Sophia, we interviewed yesterday, and one of the things you had talked about in our interview, there was a lot of talk about the different emotions and the feelings, right? And everything that you've gone through. We talked, for instance, about your experience with George Floyd and some other things. What are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm excited that that we get to see a glimpse of justice that many families have not just here in Washington but across the nation, and and hope that the systems is actually being non-biased and working for the community and the people the way it should be and has been created to.
And I just really want to say, we got to go a different route. We didn't have to do the inquest route. And so we know our family is really, we're blessed for that. But it was not in silo. It was because of the hard work of the passing of the 940 and of the advocates that spoke today. And that's what I was trying to say before. It is about community. This is not something that any family wants to walk alone. However, we are very public. We want to be able to teach, especially young people, and we want to be able to share the journey with them, because I think every single step is going to be significant and it's going to be in our history books, and we want to make sure that history does not misrepresent what happened today, because it is going to be in the history books, and our young people are now living in the first time to see a police officer arrested in 30 years in the state of Washington and charged, and that to me needs to be what we keep bringing out there. And Jesse Saray family, we're going to need it, because you know what? Every step forward, there's going to be a step backwards. Today, if we didn't go in and be strong and challenge the ruling of bail and arresting, we walked out with this victory. And he needed to be arrested, because if he wasn't arrested, then we would not be saying the right message. And so to me, everybody that's been here supporting us and helping us, we could not do it without everyone.
Follow-up question. What was Jeff Nelson's demeanor in the courtroom?
Whoa, I wish one of the family members could talk. I wish.
I could tell you, I think he was emotionless. He didn't express any emotion at all. And I mean, he's a cold-hearted killer, so it's kind of creepy.
What was his reaction when they made him stand up and have to be handcuffed when he was put on bail?
I almost think it was the reaction of the other cops. I cannot imagine what it's like to have to be a police officer that had to go in and arrest one of your own. So to me, I was watching the arresting officers more than him. By that time, he was subdued. I think he did not expect that it was going to swing on him. I'm not sure why he walked in there with this attitude like, I'm above the law, and he just got demoted.
Yeah, he didn't express any emotions, and probably because his attorney advised him not to. But, the emotions of the families in there was amazing, because we were cheering. we were happy.
He's asking, he was asking us about the emotion and how he looked when he was arrested.
Jeff Nelson.
I was focusing on the people arresting him.
I said he didn't have any emotions.
He didn't. I mean, are we expecting emotions from an individual that is a serial killer?
No.
I mean, generally they're emotionless individuals who don't care about, human life. So I wasn't expecting much emotion from him, and we didn't see much emotion out of him when he was being arrested. Oh, my name is Katrina Johnson, cousin of Charlene Lyles.
Katrina, Katrina.
Yes, ma'am.
Johnson, Johnsson.
Correct.
Any other questions?
There's a number of families here today, and you guys, like I was saying earlier, you guys probably got a big win today, and this could be an inflection point in prosecutions.
Yes, we're hoping it is. That is the goal. That's what all of us have been working so hard for. Not only for our loved ones, but for every single family that's impacted by police violence.
And this is just, this is the first of many that should be coming down the pipe, because Jesse wasn't the first person after the law 940 was enacted. So I'm hoping to see some other officers be charged with, murder charges in light of 940, and some of these were so egregious that they could have happened even before 940 was even into law. So I definitely believe that, in the case of Manny Ellis and Sean Kerr and, other individuals within the community, that we should be seeing these prosecutors, we need to start holding them accountable out in Pierce County, and also, other cases within King County as well.
Ladies, as a member in a sisterhood that nobody wants to be a member of, what would your advice be to Manuel Ellis's family and the struggle that they are going through, and their continued waiting for some action from the city of Tacoma and Pierce County?
Go ahead.
I'm in contact with the family of Manny Ellis. I talked to his sister, and she already knows it's a war of attrition. And nothing comes easy. Just knowing that she has support and people have her back through this and through intimidation that often happens to families. Just know that we are here and we will not stop until there are charges brought against the police officers that were, involved in the killing of Manny Ellis.
And I also want to speak about EJ Strickland. 10 days before Justice Array was killed, EJ was killed in the city of Auburn. And that is a significant time in my history in this journey, because that family, who I've never met, came to Jesse's vigil. Some other impacted families came as well, but this was a family I really needed to meet. And
I just want to make sure that people can hear you.
thought about how to reach out to them. And so when they showed up to stand in solidarity with us, along with Andre Taylor and Katrina and some other impacted family members, I said to Kathleen that us South King County mamas are going to be strong. And so she is not here with us today, but we began this journey together, and we pulled in Katrina because you got to bring Katrina. You don't want to leave her behind, because she has been a rock for us. And so, you know, if Kathleen, if you were looking at this, we send you love, because her child was killed in Auburn, but it turned out is being picked up by Pierce County. So we were hoping that she would be part of this and this ruling, but she is part of the Pierce County. And so please, people, keep your love, keep your strength up for the Strickland family, for the loss of their son. And I just really want to say that this is to today, the reason that we elevated and put out the opportunity for the other impacted families is because we need to center around all of us. It cannot just be now about Jesse. Jesse's case will go quiet for a while, and when it gets action, be here, be ready, because we'll be here. But let's start focusing on some of these other cases, and let's bring the spotlight on them. And through Not This Time and Families Are the Front Line, if you want to reach out and talk to other family members, we will definitely make that available if they want to talk to you.
I wanted to answer to Manny Ellis and what I would say to their families. They're not alone, and the community is here for them and to support them, even if they don't actually speak to individuals. They just should know that they're not alone, and they're all here supporting them.
Oh, do you have anything you would like to ask?
You've all spoken every word perfectly.
Okay, we just don't want you quiet over there.
I appreciate it.
Sometimes
Taking it all in.
Katrina, can I ask, I know one of the demands, and I think the vigil for Jesse was to stop the lawsuits against the inquests, and I know there was a ruling in that on Friday. Can you speak to that? Or?
Yeah, I can. It definitely did not go in favor of families. Friday was a sad day, and I would have hoped that the judge Spector could have done something a little bit better than what shook out. But families, we're going to keep fighting. We cannot continue to go along with the status quo, especially when community demanded change and reformed and inclusivity into the inquest process that would have made it better not only for families but to hold officers accountable and for us to be able to humanize our loved ones. You guys took a life and you don't want us to humanize our loved ones. You don't know them, right? So, and the only way that we can bring them alive is by saying who they are. And the fact that law enforcement and folks don't want to see that happen makes me wonder if that is not the system continuing to operate in which the way it has to keep people oppressed. But we are here for our liberation, and we demand it, and we are not going to settle for anything less than that. So as far as I'm concerned about the inquest ruling on Friday, shame on you, and we'll see you at the top at the Supreme Court.
Yep.
I mean, I was not happy on Friday.
Right? Such a victory, and then to have to...
I mean, it happens, though. And it's almost like, what is wrong? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what was so bad that it made you guys want to fight those? That's because you guys don't want to change. You want to continue to pack that courtroom, intimidate the families, and they don't get to say anything into their loved one. All they do is get to sit there, and you guys get to say whatever you want and say that you're in fear of your life. I mean, come on now. No, we are in fear of our life. Because you guys kill our loved ones, and then you guys harass us, you follow us, you intimidate us, and you know, and it's like we didn't do anything wrong to ask for this. Why am I leaving a rally for Jesse Saray and I'm followed home from Auburn to Tacoma and around Tacoma for 45 minutes, scared out of my life, and then I'm finally able to get home. I mean,
but this is what a lot of the impacted families are experiencing, and
many.
It's because we are speaking out, we are demanding change, and we are creating change, and they're not happy with it.
And
the police harass you guys all the time?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to combat, law enforcement harassment after they kill your loved ones, and then you have white nationalists and white supremacists out here that we also have to be mindful of. And all we're doing is just trying to speak about the injustice that happened to our loved one. And I find it, that most families aren't even talking a lot about this, but it's happening to many, many families. And it's to the point to where we're wondering if we need bulletproof vests and whether we have to have safety plans to be able to leave our home to even be able to come here. I can't go anywhere alone, especially what happened to me 2 weeks ago. It's not safe.
What happened 2 weeks ago?
I was followed home from the Auburn. I was followed back to Tacoma. I knew I was being followed, so I knew not to go home, but I was followed from the event for Jesse Saray. There was no license plate in the front of the car. They kept running up acting like they were going to rear end me, and it's happening all the time. Family members are wondering if their phones are actually tapped now. We're afraid to communicate only in person without other media and things like that, because we don't know what they're able to do and what they won't do. We have people getting harassed by the Washington State Patrol. It runs deep, and we know that this is only the beginning. It is only the beginning, and families literally are the front line. And just know that even though you are trying to intimidate us, we will not go down. We have nothing left to lose. All we have to lose is our chains, and we will not stop fighting until we get our liberation. You have already stolen our loved ones.
I didn't catch the question. I had to go say goodbye to the family. What was the question?
We were talking about the intimidation and the following.
Yeah, so one of the things that we said inside there was about the protecting, and I almost got in trouble because when they said the Saray family and they were signing the order, I didn't know if they had my name, and I've been fucking speaking out loud. So I went up to the courthouse to try to go in, and the door was locked, and someone opened it, and the judge was like, I said, I just want to make sure my name's on the protection because I didn't know if it was. And then what happened? They said it was on there?
Yeah, she said it's on there.
Yeah, I think she likes
It's
it.
a no contact order, right?
And,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a piece of paper.
I know it's a piece of paper.
No, I'm saying it's great, but I'm just saying, and it
It's
is
not
still
actually him.
only
It
a
could-
piece of paper.
I understand that, but I still want
and
my name on
families
there.
have to be vigilant, even outside of that, because people get protection orders all the time, and things still happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's just community holding community and making sure that impacted families are safe.
Are you afraid for your life?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
I think we all are
I
to a
think
degree.
that we are afraid for our life, but I don't have the luxury to be afraid because you've already, you murdered my
Yeah, you've
cousin.
already murdered my son. I mean, you're not going to stop me from speaking up and standing up and creating change.
And is this a newer development since there's been maybe some progress, or you're getting somewhere, or since
I think it's happened to many families all along.
It has been happening.
But I think it's going to start to begin to build and only get worse from here on out.
I'm sorry, and you're Darlene O'Reilly's cousin?
Yeah.
Is that right? And I'm so sorry.
Yovng McDay's mother.
Okay, and you
You'll see if Father Thomas cousin.
so sorry, you guys. I heard it was about.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm Yosia, Father Tomo's cousin.
He was murdered by Seattle police December 31st. He was the first person killed after 9/40 was enacted.
Was before though, because it was the 31st. It was a day before it took effect. Yes, is that right?
I thought it took effect.
I
After
might be wrong.
December 6th.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
It was December 6th. You're right.
And
It wasn't in January.
we're pressing for prosecution of officers that killed and broke the law past 9/40, and we're starting.
Post 9/40, all 30 some odd. It's probably more than that. Once definitely post 9/40.
Well, there's been a total of 63 officer-involved shootings, and 63 people have died post 9/40.
That's statewide?
Yes.
And that's post approval at the ballot or post it taking effect?
Post taking effect until
So that December 6th.
Yeah, and so Jesse's case fell in our favor.
With the malice, but still the independent investigations aren't what they're supposed to be at.
Right, they're not, which is why I am trying to help with that on this governor's task force, which is an uphill battle within
I know
itself.
Andre left, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. I'm teetering. Honestly. I don't know if it's, the best use of my time at this
But that's
point.
not where all the legislation is coming from that we're talking about?
No. The governor's task force will inform legislation, hopefully, and anything less than a completely independent entity doing these, investigating these uses of force cases by law enforcement fall short. It won't do anything to heal the community, to bring anybody closer. If it is not completely independent of any law enforcement agency, it won't do us anything.
And the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability is the group that's working on all of these
Can you say that again, sorry?
Washington Coalition for Police Accountability.
And I just want to let you know, we are going to
On
allow
police accountability.
We're going to allow this process. We're in a different process right now, and the prosecution is leading their part of the case. But as you noticed today, I counter even what they wanted. They had recommended no bail, and I said to Mark Larson, I need to be able to make a testimony. So, and I told him even after, every step of the way, I am going to. There are going to be times where I am going to, what's it called?
Not agree with you.
Yeah, counter. I mean, I'm not going to. If I don't agree on something, I'm going to speak out.
Yeah, you're an advocate.
And he has agreed.
That is your job.
Well, I know that.
Advocate for
so. So that's what I'm trying to say is I won't back down. So I'm watching the case, I'm following the case. That's why it's really important that you understand that, and he does too. I mean, they know me. I'm not going to sit by if there's something that they're doing, especially to let someone out on a bail. I'm not going to sit by. It was ultimately up to the judge. I made my statement, and she ruled in favor. So hopefully, it's not always going to be that maybe clean, but we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep watching and holding that accountability.
I just was going to ask Elaine, what, if you're able to share, what are the next legal steps for you and the family in moving forward?
Right now, the legal steps is in the hands of the courts. What's happening on September 22nd?
Another hearing.
What is it called?
It's just another hearing.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was
There'll be
special.
several. There's still hearings.
Probably case setting.
I don't know what it's called.
We'll show up.
Whenever there's something to show up to, I mean, basically, his lawyer asked. They said September 8th. They said we need more time, so they're working on theirs. I don't know the name of it. They said it. I didn't hear it. I wasn't there, but I didn't hear it. But we're gonna follow this case. They still have to get a jury. There's a lot of work ahead. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, we're in the middle of a health crisis, if you didn't notice. So,
well, and we'll be here every step of the way, watching with a close lens.
Are you concerned at all about having a trial here in Kent? I mean, I've covered many, many trials, and there's a difference between Kent juries and Seattle juries. And Kent juries tend to side with police.
So
is that a concern or something that you've talked about?
That's something I can bring up then. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I think
appreciate the legal advice.
And I think that you can even be part of jury selection. I think they allow the family to see jury selection.
Sorry.
Well, it's all.
I just don't want you to trip.
Be warranted, perhaps. You know what I mean? I think that it's definitely something that perhaps the family and others should look into, considering, many of us couldn't even fit in that courtroom, so we'll see how that goes going forward, but I definitely think that it may be interesting going down the road, seeing if maybe somebody puts in for a change of venue.
Yeah.
But that again is on the prosecutors, and the job of impacted families is to hold everybody accountable, including the prosecutors, when you're supposed to be working on the best interest for the family, to make sure you're actually working in the best interest of the family. And that's literally what the judge was actually saying today.
Well, we like the judge, let's just say that.
Who was the judge today?
Yeah, I mean, don't worry, we're going to be along all the way. We fought to get to this, and then we told people let's get this done with the arraignment, and now we're going to start looking at that. And if this is not the place to do it, I think they're going to have a hard time finding a good jury. I think it'll automatically happen, and those type of things are supposed to be publicized for public viewing, and it's way too small in there. We we kind of like got to the front to get in. Otherwise, I don't think we would have even had the family in there. So.
I'm so sorry. Who was the prosecutor?
Mark Larson, Deputy Mark Larson.
Mark Larson.
And Kate Van Oltz.
Huh?
And Kate Van Oltz. KVO.
Kathleen.
Kathleen Van Oltz?
Yeah.
She calling herself Kathleen?
We're
now?
Kathy. Yeah.
Okay.
She's calling herself Kathleen.
Yeah.
Bye.
Really?
Yeah, and they've been working with our family for about 8 months. So we've already been having this dialogue for about 8 months. So it's been, you know, we've been
Retired
at
and
the
came
table
back.
all the way through this thing. It was
He
interesting.
retired and came back just to try this case?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me explain. So when he met with our family, we were pretty surprised because we're sitting there, it was about 6 or 8 months ago, and he had met with our family. And after he said that Dan Sandberg has decided to go with this case, then Mark Larson says, but I'm retiring. And we're like, what the
Okay.
And he says, I'm coming out of retirement for this one.
Wow.
So he did come out of retirement for this one. And we have been, right now, I'm going to just say it, the prosecution has been working for us in our favor. Today, though, was our first counter thing that we didn't agree with the bill. And that's okay. Mark knows me. He knows I'm going to counter him. And he came to me out in the courtroom. He wanted me to come sit with them. But then the judge told me to come back out. Did you see that? So, yeah.
So you think he came back on the case to kind of help you guys?
No.
But work against
he
you,
had
right?
fought the case right around his retirement.
Uh-huh.
And so he had to be able to come out of retirement.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I think we're done.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Until next time, family.
Yes.
Can I give you my card?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, malcontents, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. We have been at the Kent Regional Justice Center, the Malling Regional Justice Center in Kent, Washington, where today Jeff Nelson was formally arraigned on first-degree assault and second-degree murder. He has been held on $500,000 bail. He is to have home monitoring if he makes bail. He cannot have a passport. He has to turn in all of his guns and weapons, and he is no longer a law enforcement officer. He is just Jeff Nelson. Thank you for tuning in.